Hello people of my face space world web. I want to talk a little bit about fleas, bass sound, and about bass growl in general. I did another video on bass growl and I was getting some thumbs down in it, probably because my playing was rubbish or because I wasn't doing very much explaining. But anyway, I thought I'd do it again because I found out some new stuff and I've kind of centered my thinking a little bit more. If you want to get down to actually listening to a little bit of a demonstration of my rather poor playing, you can just skip ahead and take a listen to that, and you can maybe hear a little bit of what I'm talking about. But you know, don't take it for granted that I'm gonna absolutely nail anybody's tone, especially not Flea. But anyway, I'm just trying to get in the ballpark. So I pretty much want to talk about three factors that I think are important in getting Flea's tone or getting a good kind of bass growl that Flea gets on many of his albums. And I think you can nail it down quite logically to the bass amp and the EQ, the bass guitar and its EQ, and obviously your playing style and your fingers. So firstly, on the bass amp, what I've got in the demo that I follow up with in a few minutes is I'm running Pod Farm on a Mac, but I am also using the Gallien-Kruger. I think it's called the 80s model or something. For proprietary reasons, they couldn't actually name it Gallien-Kruger, but it's a Gallien-Kruger. And what I've done there is I've boosted the low mids and some of the high mids a little bit. And I think that's one of the critical things that you'll get in looking for a non-overdrive bass type of growl. So there's a growl that you can get from an overdrive pedal, but what you'll get distinctively from that is when you play up on the higher ends of the fretboard, you'll still hear the overdrive, whereas growl really only comes from you'll hear it in the mid-range of the guitar, and then as you get up to the higher notes, that heavy emphasis on that grinding lower mids tends to go away, and you can still get those clean notes. So that's how I set up the bass amp for the demo, and I think that you can get there pretty much with any amp as long as you boost the low mids and it has a kind of natural reputation, either from the tubes or from the way it's set up. Gallien-Kruger has a tendency to have that reputation. I have a GK MB E3 150, which is a small amp head that also has that boost function and parametric EQ, and I think what I tend to do is really just boost the low mids, and there's a natural kind of boost button in there that just basically brings everything up, gives it a nice mid hump. So that's the one major factor that I found in trying to cop that sound. The second thing, obviously, and probably one of the more critical things in my view, is getting a bass guitar that gives you the right opportunity to deliver the goods. So what I've got here is obviously a Sterling Music Man bass with a humbucking pickup, and what you're able to do with this, and what I do in the demo, is switch between a parallel or a series wiring. So parallel, you're getting more of a flat kind of sound, but when you stick it in series, it naturally boosts the mids. So that's why I do a quick comparison of that later on in the video. At the same time, I also boost the mid knob a little bit to give it a bit more of that punch, and you'll hear the growl come out when I do that. In general, Music Man type basses and obviously jazz basses where the pickup is closer to the bridge is going to be able to give you that kind of sound, and that's going to be quite critical. And Warwick basses as well, I've had a few of those, and they give you that kind of natural, and a lot of people say that it comes from the wood, which I believe to some extent. However, this is, I think, basswood or something like that, and it growls just as much as the Warwick that I used to have, which was a full-blown German-made Warwick, and this is a relatively cheap import version. And I've actually had a USA Sterling and a USA Stingray as well, which I've subsequently sold, but out of all of them, this one growls the most, so go figure, right? It's not always about price, it's about a number of other factors. Another thing that actually often goes unmentioned in discussions around growl is the importance of getting that string attack on the frets, and by that I mean having a very low action. Well, this is absolutely critical in my view if you're trying to get that Flea sound from some of the records, from some of the albums. Now, if you actually go and listen to the cut outs or the soloed channels on the Blood Sugar Sex Magik albums, or any of the other albums, what you'll find is that the bass that Flea's playing is actually really kind of quite growly and overdriven to kind of a surprising extent at times. And what a lot of us don't realize is that a lot of those extraneous noises and buzzes get lost in the mix, and it's the overall tone of that which contributes to that wonderful beefy low end that we all love. So the critical way to do that on bass is to get the action ridiculously low. So on mine, I have it set up as Flea's tech actually sets up. I found some pretty convincing discussions around how Flea's tech has spoken out about this. And at the 12th fret of the E string, you're going to be looking for 3/64ths of an inch. Yes, that's 3/64ths of an inch, believe it, or just above, a hair above that. And on the G string, or just a hair above 2/64ths on the G string. And an exceptionally low relief as well. I've got this almost dead flat. So using a feeler gauge, I've got it at 5/1000ths, or between 5-6 thousandths of an inch at the midway points of the fretboard. When you're depressing each side of the bass string. So what you'll essentially get from that is you won't hear it in necessarily very loudly in the upcoming sound sample, but you'll very, very buzzy noise, but it's all about how it comes through in the actual final the final mix down, which is what's so important. So yeah, I was going to say something else about that. I've forgotten what it is. Maybe it'll come back to me. But anyway, I mean, that's in summary the kind of bass elements. And the final element obviously comes from your own aggression and your own kind of playing style. Flea does tend to pick quite heavily, and most importantly, if you want to get that growly sound, I think it's fairly important if you want to get a nice strong, kind of pronounced mid growl, then you're playing right above the bridge pickup. And you can play elsewhere, and it does come through slightly depending on the way the bass is set up and how you play. But ideally, that's where you want to be going, essentially right above that bass pickup, and really punching in kind of. Really getting into those strings to get that growl out. So essentially that's what I've learned in the little while that I've been playing bass. I hope it's helpful. I just wanted to put it out there because I see that there's nothing really else out there like this on the web, and there's a lot of equivocation and random discussion on forums that doesn't really progress the understanding for a lot of people. So I hope you find it useful, and good luck with your sound.